Natalie is the second-born daughter to parents who quickly tried again to do better. Now the second oldest of 5, Natalie is no stranger to competitive markets and collaborative attempts. From a young age, communication, storytelling, and the art of exaggeration have served her as she navigated 5 states, 14 moves, and being the awkward homeschooled kid in the room. Although Natalie has worked as a creative director and commercial graphic artist for 15 years, her college education was in the congruent fields of English, youth ministry, and communication. Communication and casual dating. She's never taken an art or business class, and didn't complete a degree in any of the 7 fields of study to which she switched her major in the 14 years she pursued her undergraduate degree, but did swallow 24 live goldfish at a school homecoming event. So it'd be hard to argue her indelible mark. A failed middle school gymnast, Natalie has learned to take a tumble and how to pivot in professional and personal situations, most notably when she had to feed her cat frozen chicken nuggets in a snowstorm. With 4 teenage boys in 3 different schools, living in a house that's perpetually undergoing renovations, Natalie ran a record-setting 800-meter dash to jump on the Brené Brown vulnerability bandwagon, where she's taken a seat, buckled in, and fully embraced life in the fast lane. Spilled coffee on her signature white shirts, and the art of the run-on sentence, and the general messiness that passionate living brings. Last year, Natalie survived an 80-mile-an-hour car accident in a convertible in the middle of the night, compelling her to up the ante of life with creativity, community, courage, collaboration, cohesiveness, caffeination, and the resulting concussion. She looks forward to someday feeling like an adult in the room and reminds her kids every day that they are not the greatest thing that she's ever done. She is. So with that, I give you Natalie LaFrance Slack.
I feel really, really bad that you had to read that. So what I am clearly very good at is run-on sentences. My name is Natalie LaFrance Slack, and I am the owner of a local graphic design and marketing firm called Spore Creative, and we've been here in Rapid City for about 15 years. I was told that I was supposed to talk about my entrepreneurial journey, and quite frankly, I didn't really realize I was an entrepreneur for a long time. I have just sort of naturally bounced from interest and passion to talent and community organization, and sort of all of that culminated in the launch of our business. My husband actually started Spore Creative. You can roll slide, because then I'll know what I'm talking about. My husband actually started our business in 2004 when we were teenage parents who moved back to Rapid City to have the support of my family. And during that time, he was in college, and he was a programmer, and he was actually quite a good programmer. And 15 years ago in Rapid City, there weren't a lot of particularly great web programmers. And where his skill set was in Flash programming, which at the time was kind of like cool and now is phased out completely. But at that time, he was the Flash programmer for Rapid City, and so a lot of the larger marketing and design firms here hired him to do their Flash programming. So he subcontracted under them while I was home with 1, then 2, then 3, and now 4 kids. So Spore Creative was his business at that time, and I was actually the creative director at Fountain Springs Community Church. So I had started there when the church had 60 people, and was there through the evolution to whatever it is now. And that was where I started to kind of find my design chops. I had a lot of creative ideas, but not necessarily any actual skill. Shockingly, all those years in my undergrad programs, 7 of them, had not equipped me with a lot of marketable skills. But I just started to lean into the ideas that would come to me and then develop the skills that I needed. So lots of online coursework, YouTube video watching, and just finding designers that I appreciated and learning from them. It was the year 2008, according to this, that I left the church partly just due to the way that they were growing was a little bit different from how I wanted to see growth, and partly because Brandon needed a full-time designer to come on. And so we took the leap into working as a married couple, face-to-face across from each other in a room, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are 365 days in most years, sometimes 366. That's a rough year, I'm going to tell you, when you work with your spouse. But we did work across from each other, and we began to be a pretty decent partnership, with him mostly doing the online side of our business and me taking the creative and the design and melding that together. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship, a lot of people want to do what they're passionate about. And often we find something that we can do, that we believe in, and then we sort of figure out how to make it work financially. And that's sort of the fine art of being an entrepreneur, I think. One of the great challenges for us in our business has been sort of the evolution of online technologies and trends. You know, my 11-year-old can build a website pretty much as fast as I can at this point. And so in the last few years, we've had to pivot as a firm. Originally, we specialized in web development, and we were the firm in Western South Dakota that was doing web development. And as more and more platforms have become available, like WordPress and Wix and things like that, a lot of people can put their own website together. It's not hard anymore the way that it was 15 years ago. So one of the challenges for us is not only pricing competitively and making sure that we're not overcharging for something that's no longer so specialized, but also helping people understand the value in having somebody that is sort of the gatekeeper of their brand. And where my talents have come in is in brand cohesion, messaging, storytelling, and helping people's brands begin to make sense across all their platforms. So social media, web development, traditional print placement, we work with radio, video, all of those different platforms. So it's sort of been an evolution that way, and we've had to pivot. One of the things that I've learned as a business owner is to not take myself very seriously, which, as you can probably tell, I don't. In fact, I often don't even really feel like a business owner, and I struggle the most with people ask me, what do you do? And I can list about 300,000 things that I do, and none of them would include owning a business. This is where I'm least comfortable talking about my successes. One of the fun things about being a business owner in this community is that what I'm really good at, which is community building and connection, really works in Rapid City. Going to the chamber mixer and shaking hands and meeting people results in people coming into our circles. And those connections are really powerful and impactful. One of the things that I've been very lucky to do with my career is benefit a lot of nonprofits here in town. And one of the biggest issues that a lot of nonprofits have, other than the obvious fundraising, program implementation, is having somebody that can communicate their message in a meaningful way. And that's the only real thing I'm good at. So I've been able to work with Wavy and the Hope Center and Storybook Island and Ski for Light. I mean, I could just go through. There's probably 30 plus nonprofits that I've been able to design campaigns for, and I do most of that work pro bono. So that's been something that I've been blessed to be able to give back to my community through my commercial and sales related contracts. So I guess I encourage, and what's worked for me, those of you who have a business that maybe isn't as obviously service related as mine is, that those connections still exist. And finding nonprofits or community organizations that whatever your skills and talents may be might benefit, I think is a really important way of not just building your business, but building our community. And I think if we choose to work and live here in Rapid City, which I feel very lucky to do at this time in my life, to have children here, to have the Black Hills in our backyard, to be able to mountain bike and hike and ski and snowboard. This is an amazing place to live, but it's only as amazing as the efforts that we're putting back into our community. And groups like this are powerful places for people to begin to sprout ideas. They come together and connect, and really make a difference. So I guess as much as entrepreneurship has allowed me flexibility and freedom to travel as much as I want, to take my kids to see the world, to take days off when my mom was going through cancer treatment and I needed to be in Houston with her. It's also allowed me to really invest right here and to build something that, even though it's shifted and changed over the years, from one area of specialization to new areas of specialization. My husband's now a grad student, so he's taken a little bit of a step back right now as he focuses on education. And we're still just churning along. We're doing what we can do to be impactful here. And we've been so lucky to have the trust of so many business owners as they've launched new ideas or, built on years and years of tradition. We've been able to work with companies that kind of run all across that gamut. So I didn't do any of the rest of my slides because I didn't really care about them that much. But for me, the journey has been really kind of spectacular in the sense of I didn't want it, I didn't choose it, I didn't even know I was on it. But I feel really, really lucky to be here and to have gotten to know many of the people in this room who are also kind of doing the same thing together. And so many of you are also involved in the community, which I think is just tops.
So I'm Helen Sarah, and I'm actually with a nonprofit, Habit House. What is the biggest missing link that nonprofits have in their messaging?
That means I'm supposed to be an expert in my field. That's unfair. I just told you, I don't know.
Okay,
no, that's a great question. I think that what I've seen, because again, I get to sort of be on the outside of a lot of things, but then as I work with messaging with especially my nonprofits, I get to kind of come in and learn about what they're doing. And this is not true of a lot of marketing people. I like to believe in what I'm doing. So for me and I turn down projects that I don't believe in. And that's not like some higher road, like I'm so special. It's really just that I only will put in if I care about something. And I know that about myself. It's just who I am. I'm not going to invest if I don't believe in what I'm investing in. So what I've seen with a lot of not-for-profits here is a little bit of a lack of connectivity in resources, in communication, almost a competitiveness in some ways, which is not unfamiliar to me in the marketing world because people are freaking cutthroat in marketing and it's super weird. I think for a lot of messaging campaigns especially, action steps that go behind the message is a really important piece. So I like to be aware about the resources available and the problems that exist, but I also need to know very clearly what my money is going to go to, or my time, or what I can do as an individual, as a community member, to be part of the change. So when I get excited about a message and a cause, I need to know step 2. How do I show up? Who am I showing up for? What am I doing? So I think that's a key piece that sometimes really good awareness campaigns miss. Does that sort of answer?
Yes.
Okay. Next. Yeah, Gordon.
Gordon Becker, Shield Financial. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you recently did an article about the campaign. I think you did a real good job of showing how important it is to stay local. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I guess I would argue a little bit that point because I didn't actually say that money had to stay local. I believe what I said is I believe in good people being paid good money to do good art for good causes. And I am not directly opposed to the fact that money went out of state for an important drug awareness campaign. I do think that talent exists in our state. I do think that if you put enough creative people in a room, we could have done better, and we could have done more with that money. Again, that kind of plays off of what I said about some of the competition within the design and marketing and advertising world in this state. There's not a lot of people that are willing to work together, and that impacts significantly the reach of some of these campaigns. One of the things that I do when I travel that I absolutely love is I always make contact with another marketing firm wherever I'm going. And I go in and I sit down with them and I tour their facility and I just want to know, what are you doing that you're excited about? Where are you innovating? Tell me about what you're doing. And I'm not their competition because I'm coming from South Dakota. I'm a little person from a little market. And so I've been really lucky to learn from people that are doing really big things. And the number one thing that I see in other states and bigger markets is because is so much work to go around. The competition is a little bit more of a collaboration than a competition, and I would love to see that in our state as well. Like, my firm might not be able to bid a $450,000 creative campaign. I mean, I could have done it for $80,000, but I'm not going to bid a contract that big. It doesn't make sense for me. It doesn't look right on paper. Could I have created that campaign with the help of some other creative people in the state? I think we could have done better. Yes.
Deanna, Becket here, coach. Percentage-wise, I mean, you've reached out into other states.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you do business outside of South Dakota and outside
Sure.
your area. What percentage of your business is in, what is that?
Ooh. It's like a numbers question. Out of all 7 areas of study that I pursued, I can promise you math was not one of them. You know, at this time, I would say probably like 90% of my business is local. There was a time when I was probably hustling a little harder than I am currently, and we were working quite a few contracts in the Dallas and Denver markets. We have done contracts for major clothing brands like Tommy Hilfiger's sister, Ginny Hilfiger, out of New York. We've done resorts in Aruba. We've done big campaigns and contracts out of state, but my heart is here. And so when I get to choose where I pour my energy, it tends to stay local. So I think probably 90%.
I'm Leah, Braun with Nsight Partners. Have you had a favorite or a couple of favorite things that you've worked on over the years?
Ooh. I hate playing a favorites card. It's like when your kids ask, you know, like, who's your favorite? Well, I have a favorite today, but I'm not going to tell you. And it kind of goes that way for my business, though. I have had some contracts that I have absolutely loved that didn't last for whatever reason. And I've had some that I've let go because it was time for them to move to another voice. And I think that's something that's significant as an entrepreneur to recognize that loyalty is important when you're working with somebody, especially as you develop a partnership. But don't be afraid to mix up your marketing. Sometimes we need a fresh voice, and it's not bad to say, you know what, I'm going to look somewhere else. And if you're in my industry, that's just part of the deal. Some of my favorite things that I've been able to do, honestly, are probably book covers that I've designed for friends of mine or clients that are authors, because I'm an avid reader and I love books. I get to work with TEDx Rapid City, which I really am passionate about those stories that are told from the stage, and do some of the creative work for them. My own pet project, which is a storytelling collective that meets once a month, called Verb Storytelling Collective. And we, you know, that's all just passion project stuff that I do on my own. I've worked with Storybook Island for a million years. Black Hills Harley Davidson's been awesome to me. I've had a contract with them since 2011, and they were really a launching point for me getting my name out in the community. And I work with West Hills Village, and I love to just go sit there and visit with the residents there, and we do little video interviews and things like that. So that's, you know, from selling motorcycles and being like all grungy to West Hills Village. That's what's really fun about my job, is that I get to do something new every day. So I'm never really super bored. Yeah.
Constantine with US Bank. So I guess I'm just curious, so within the Rapid City market, I know when you're advertising, when you're doing marketing right now, social media is all the buzz, but is that, I've come to find out the Rapid City doesn't exactly always follow the mold of everywhere.
Yeah.
So is that still true about our city, as far as that is the main idea of where most of the consumers are driving their marketing from, or
Right.
are we still open to, from what you've seen, to newspapers, and
Yeah.
radio and TV and all that stuff from your experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. We sort of always joke that we're the marketing firm that's never done any advertising for ourselves. And that's true. We don't do paid placement for ourselves in really any advertising outlet out there. Now, that's not to say that when I've had the chance, I haven't written an op-ed or been interviewed for something that maybe is relevant to my field. And those connections have been good for me. But as far as spending a lot of money on advertising, there's really two things that I recommend for people. The first is make sure that your online presence is dialed in. So as much as we are a Facebook generation, my children are not. So you're missing part of your audience if you're only on Facebook. My grandma is, but she might be the rare 88-year-old that is. So make sure your online is dialed in, which means a website. It means having a social media presence that you update, even if, and please don't be sales pitchy on your social media. Be educational, be informative, be community driven, share other people's information. Create integrity with your social media, but don't sell on it. It's a poor platform for that. Especially if you're a service-oriented business, I should say. If you are selling perfume, by all means, please sell on social media. So and make sure it's cohesive. So website, online, social media presence, cohesive. The message you need to know what you're saying and why you're saying it. If you don't, I guess wait, don't put it up. And then secondly, show up for your community. You don't have to pay for the front page of the Rapid City Journal, which I'd like to talk about why we have front page, full page ads on the Rapid City Journal. And I'm sad that they're hurting because I like good writing and good information, and they've got a great staff. But you don't have to put your money there if you show up to events, if you shake hands, if you're authentic with people and not just involved with things because you want to sell something or connect just so you'll get a referral. I guess in a lot of ways I'm the worst salesperson ever because I'm not good at saying this is what I do really, really well and you should pay me for it. I'm like, let's get coffee and I'll buy it and we'll hang out and we'll talk and here's everything I know about the world. But because of that, I've created really important connections that have like ripple effects. So make sure that you're cohesive in your branding. Make sure it's accessible to people who are looking it up on their phone. And then connect.
Another question. So a theme that we've heard a lot as through this platform here is, when you're an entrepreneur, there's a tendency to want to do it all, but at a certain point you realize you can't. There's not enough of you. So what are some of the things that you were happy to offload to other maybe professionals or assistant or something?
Yeah, so that sounds like a really good thing that someone should be good at. That is not my strength. Brandon and I have had kind of, this journey of we've had employees, we've downsized, we had a storefront, we've downsized. For us, our niche where we work really well is just the two of us. And we do have some subcontractors that come in on larger scale. Like we did a big HIPAA compliant programming project not long ago. So we brought in some extra programmers to really just make sure that compliance was in place for that. And occasionally when I have a lot on my plate, I do have a couple freelance designer friends, both here locally that I work with, as well as some in other communities. I don't do my taxes and my finances. I have an accountant for that because I can not do my son's 6th grade math. So that's one that I'm very happy to hand over. I would love to have somebody clean my house. So, if we have any house cleaning people here. I do think it's really important though to recognize what you do well and really pour energy there. I wouldn't say I have a very strong work-life balance, and I think we're supposed to have that. I'm not good with that because my work is so much of who I am that when I go home, I'm working on pet projects and pro bono projects and pulling my kids in to volunteer with me at the same things that I'm designing art for. So, because of the nature of my business, it's pretty easy to want to be all in all the time. But finding people that can help take that load, even people that have nothing to do with your business and don't really want to have anything to do with your business and maybe get really bored when you start to talk a lot about your business, that's important for me because they remind me that I am a whole and complete person, not just a graphic designer and business owner. Yeah.
Jack Sitch, GSA Productions. One of the things that I am always fascinated by in these stories is when someone talks about the struggle. What really they've had to work through harder to get to where they're at now. Because to be successful, of course, you've got to have a passion for it.
Right.
But what's been the struggle? What's kind of knocked you down at times?
Whew. I would say that the fact that my husband and I are in this together and solely responsible for every dollar that comes through our door has been incredibly challenging. I would not recommend it at all to anybody who wishes to remain married, ever. Not only does it create just a lot of, now you have your natural business tension and conflict that maybe you would share with a business partner. When you're bringing that home every night, it's easy to point fingers or become frustrated. And quite frankly, a lot of those things are out of our control. As I talked about sort of the industry shift from, you know, in 2008, 2009, I could charge $10,000 for a website. That's stupid now. If you're paying $10,000 for a website, you are getting ripped off, you know, and you can send that to Governor Nome. Unless your website is doing something spectacular, like your computer jumps off the table, spins around, and glitter shoots out, like you're probably overpaying. Now, that's for small businesses, okay? Like, you know, Black Hills Energy, Monument Healthcare, obviously those websites are going to be much more expensive. But we've had to shift, and those shifts are hard. It's easy for me to look at my husband, who's the programmer, and say, you know, where's the income? How are we going to level this out? What are we going to do? So figuring out how to creatively continue contracts, figuring out how to change what you specialize in, being open to adjusting prices, talking to people, those have been real struggles and challenges. And probably once a year, at about this time of year, I start to get the crazy idea that maybe I want to work for somebody else. You know, Christmas is rolling around and you're like, I need a vacation, it's cold, I don't have the income that I would like to have at this time of year. Everybody's dialing back because really they're not going to do anything till about January 20th, where they panic that they didn't put a marketing budget and plan together. So every year at this time, I'm kind of like, maybe I would like to have benefits. Maybe I would like to have paid vacation. Maybe I would like to actually work from 8 in the morning until 5 p.m. And then I realize how many times I'm off getting coffee with somebody, listening to their harebrained plan, you know, going hiking with friends, taking my kids to Terry Peak, showing up for my kids' events. And I go, it's worth it. The trade-off has been worth it. I don't necessarily recommend, if you haven't started with your spouse yet, I mean, maybe don't. But beyond that, it has been good for our relationship in its own ways. You know, we've definitely built something that we're both quite proud of. So.
Thank you.
So I gotta ask about that.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's anybody in here who doesn't know what we did, but in terms of taking the approach of taking that negative,
Yeah.
if you will, that negative perception of South Dakota and the meth issue, and turning it into and evolving it into a different type of campaign.
Yeah.
What was your driver for that?
Sure.
And what have been the outcomes as a result of doing that?
Okay. So really quick, what happened was Monday, what has it been, 3 weeks ago on a Monday, the Meth We're On It campaign launched. And typically I try really, really hard to stay off social media or my computer until at least 6 a.m. And I happened to get on my laptop at about 6:15 in the morning that day and saw the campaign slogan, thought it was an Onion article, thought it was satire, realized quickly it was not, and thought it was hilarious. Okay, so that was by 7 a.m. I'm pouring coffee thinking this is the funniest thing that I've ever seen. At that time I did not know how much money had been spent. I didn't really know anything about it. I just thought, this is really funny. And I said to my kids, I said, did you see this? This will be on Saturday Night Live. Okay, that was the whole conversation. By about noon that same Monday, chatting with friends, I'd come up with an entire sticker set of other states with their slogans. So for instance, we had, you know, Kentucky's, which was meth, we have teeth in the game. You know, we had Minnesota was, we put the ope in opioids. So we had created these similar stickers, and we were selling them, okay? So I built a website by noon that same day and was selling stickers. Okay, my kids get home from school and I start talking with them about their conversations at school that day. So I have kid at Central, a kid at Stevens, and 2 at South Middle School. And they said, yeah, kids are starting to talk about having meth parties this weekend. I said, what's a meth party? Well, it's funny, it's satire. We're not really gonna do meth, but meth isn't a big deal. That was the message that they had gotten from the campaign. And so as a mom, as the guardian of a child who has gone to rehab, that hit me. This isn't that funny anymore. What do I have within my control to change? How do I get to help steer a message? The money has been spent. At this point, I was aware of how much money had been spent. The impact is already beginning. What's the action step? How do we fix it? So I reached out to the governor's office as well as to Lori Gilla at DSS. And I said, the campaign is working. People are talking about meth. What's the action step? How do I take on meth? If I'm on meth, if I'm on it, how am I on it? What's the plan? Crickets. So I said, okay, it's not that hard to throw a certain font on top of the outline of a state and call it a campaign. And so I released Meth's No Joke. And looks exactly the same, points people to the On Meth website, because the resources are there. That's a valuable resource for somebody who is looking to talk about prevention or rehabilitation or get resources. And I put together, within the span of that 24 hours, I put together, I think 6 different posters and some social media information, and I just started pushing that out, which of course resulted then in some phone calls from CODA and KVN and KNBN and the Rapid City Journal. And I had published a little piece about it on Medium and just kind of my response to the campaign. So that got picked up as an op-ed. All of that to say, I still don't have an action plan. I have 13 emails, I believe, between myself, the governor's office, and DSS, and no real action plan. But I do believe that there has to be a follow-up message. So we are talking about meth, and that's important because I didn't realize exactly how bad the problem was here. I sort of peripherally knew that there was meth addiction issues here, but I didn't realize how bad it was. So we're talking about it, and we're becoming aware. But awareness is sort of the lazy form of activism. There's not actual action, just when we say, oh, we talked about it, that's great. So my hope is that there will be a follow-up message, especially for our young people, to help them stop laughing and start talking about actual prevention and maybe the ways that we progress from some simpler or easier, more accessible addiction into something that has serious consequences. So that's my hope as a mom, that's my hope as a community member, and I don't stand to profit off of that whatsoever. I would hope that the resources that our state paid for can become valuable resources. And last week I spent 5 hours as a sequestered witness in the courthouse. And I got to talk to all sorts of people whose lives were impacted by meth, because I don't just sit quietly. So I bounced around from bench to bench and heard all sorts of people's stories. And it's like a real problem here. And I would hope that our people that are in leadership here will go have those conversations. Because if we don't start rehabilitating and giving people options other than incarceration, we're failing South Dakota. Sorry, that got a little political. Anything else? Yeah, she's like, please stop talking. We want to fill our coffee cups.
I would like to, Tonette Braun, art source, as another creative in the community, I want to thank you for doing what you did and putting the right message out there. And everybody in the community here who got on board and shared and continue to do it, because you're so right.
Yeah, thank you. And again, what I keep saying is my campaign would not have worked. People go, oh, it's so great. You should have done that. They should have hired you. No, Meth's No Joke would have nobody would have cared, okay? It only works because first we had the joke. It only works as a follow-up. And so, I don't hold any sort of like, wow, I'm so great and I should have gotten the contract. That's ridiculous. I shouldn't have. But we do need follow-up messages, and we do need people to put their boots on the ground and say, if I'm on this, how am I on this? And I think there's so many opportunities for community members to do that. You had a question, Gordon?
Yeah, so based on what you've learned to this point, where do you think you're going next?
So I keep saying, my husband's in grad school, and I keep saying, I can't wait until I can stay at home and just pour myself into all these passion projects that I have. But I think I would probably never stop doing some of what I'm doing, in the sense that the relationships that I built, even with my commercial clients, I wouldn't say that I'm passionate about selling Harley Davidsons, but I have built relationships with those people, and I absolutely believe in what they've created. I believe in the good they can do in this community through selling motorcycles. I don't know where I see myself going. I'm a writer and a storyteller at heart. I can't make money writing and storytelling. If I didn't have to make money, I'd write and tell stories. But I'm so lucky to be able to take other sides of my creative self and pay to feed my kids at the same time. Like, it's really been a win-win. I love what I do. I love being here in this community. I don't see that changing. Yes.
I actually have a follow-up to what you talked about, the action steps for this.
Yeah.
Take that same thought process and talk to somebody about their branding and the action step once they've talked to you the first time.
Yeah.
What goes on from that point forward as an action step?
Whew, okay, that's good. My husband and I were talking about this morning. A lot of people want to pay us to sit down at a table with them and talk about ideas. And that's fun. That is the best part of my job, is throwing ideas across the table. We have a little marketing bingo, buzzword bingo, because people come to us with these things they've heard on social media and they want us to make it happen, and it's quite exciting. But yeah, implementation is the hardest part of any marketing plan. Not only do the numbers come in and you have to start going, okay, how much do we want to put into these different medias? Is Facebook advertising worth it? Am I just throwing money away? So the number one thing that I push people towards is this idea of cohesiveness. That your message absolutely has to be both loud and clear. If your message is just loud, you're missing a chance to help anybody do anything. So if you're trying to sell a product and you're just saying, buy my product, buy my product, buy my product, you're missing the chance to be clear. You're not telling people why, how it benefits them, what it's going to do for them, what the rippling impact is going to be. And if you're just promoting a cause and you're loud, people don't understand the action step, or they don't understand what their personal investment is going to be. So to take all these ideas that get thrown on the table, and then to begin to, we call it road mapping, but to roadmap somebody out and say, you know what, in 1 month, what are our goals? How many handshakes do we need to have to feel like it was successful? What's the number? Where do we need to hit? And that's my job as not a salesperson. I can't promise you that your product will sell because you've worked with me, and I won't promise you that. But I can tell you that if you're clear and you're loud and you're consistent, then people will pay attention. So the action step is often to just, let's pull everything you've ever done together. Let's throw out everything that doesn't fit because it's not valuable to you. Just because you have your business cards from 1986 and your phone number has not changed is not a good reason to hand out your business card from 1986. It just isn't. It's hurting you. And so just helping people kind of update what they can update to make sure that message is clear, loud, and cohesive is kind of where we go. Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned snowboarding and biking. Just, you're so busy. I don't understand how you're creative. People that I know that are successful in business, they go mull over problems for a while or do something else. So I just can't quite see where you do that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do know that I took a nap from 4:30 to 5:22 yesterday, and I woke up feeling a little bit better. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I'm not good with like this balance idea at all. And I sort of have this vision that balance is stagnancy. Like if you balance something, then it's not going either way. There's no movement there, right? So I don't really like balance, and I probably won't for a long time. I do find that being out, being active, fuels creativity for me. So like my son and I ride the Mickelson Trail every year together, so that's 110 miles of contemplation, because he hates people, so he doesn't want to talk to me. So, you know, that's just a chance for me to, I can't work. I can't be on a computer. I'm not on social media. I'm completely disconnected. That's a valuable 24 hours for me. And I do really try to make time for reading, for sitting, for visiting with my mom and my grandma. But I'm not good at it, and I'm not sure, honestly, how long I can stay at this momentum. Sometimes I worry about that. I look at friends who I know who have crashed really hard. I think that potential exists, you know, and on the Brene Brown vulnerability thing, like I quit drinking this year, and that was significant for me because I realized how often I was unwinding with a glass of wine, and how much that was impacting my mornings, and how much that was impacting my actual creativity. And what I found when I was drinking more, especially socially, all of our events are built around, let's get together and have a drink. Let's go to a mixer and have cocktails. When I stopped doing that, I started actually doing things instead of talking about doing things. And I think for me, that was a really powerful switch. I don't know that that's the answer for everybody. So to add, I don't know. I don't know how, when your life is so deeply entwined with your career, I don't know how to separate that. And because of what I do, I don't really have to. If I went and sat in an office and crunched numbers all day, I would need to take a mental break. For me, it's like, I love the ideas, and I love just working, leaning into them and being creative and meeting creative people. And so we'll see in 10 years where I'm at. I might have a different perspective. So. Okay, so I'm going to sort of do it in two parts. The first thing is recognize the value of creative. It's easy as a business owner to say that's the last thing I'm going to put my money to. I need to build my product. I need to put my brick and mortar together. I need to get my service dialed in. And that's all extremely important. But recognize that creative minds are the people that are going to connect you to your potential consumers and clients. So recognize the value of creative. And secondly, ask questions, but be willing to pay for creative people's time. I know there are other creative people and people that do web development and marketing services in this room. And just because those are talents and passions does not mean that those are free assets for you to take advantage of. And I'm terrible at charging for my services, but I have to. And that's been a stretch for me as I've learned as a business owner. Be prepared when you ask a marketing professional for their services that is going to cost you something, and then recognize that value. That will build not just my business, but that builds the creative environment here in Rapid City, which is how we get statewide contracts. It's how we begin to collaborate when we're supporting one another as creative people instead of clamoring for the small piece of pie. So I guess that would be my ask.
All right, well, let's give it up for Natalie.